Jim Collison, we're back here at Infotec 2015, and we're in the afternoon session on the 21st. I'm here with Ronnie Thomas, and he is from Warner. Ronnie, welcome, and thanks for coming out.
Thanks for having me.
Talk a little bit about what you do, where you're from, the organization you work for, kind of a little bit about your job.
Sure. I'm an associate director at Warner Enterprises. I'm responsible for the execution division, so how we actually move the freight. The customers give us for their requests, and we move it through different means, either internationally, intermodal, via the railroads, or via our brokerage system, where we go and contract with third-party carriers to move the freight for you.
Yeah, that's super awesome. We were talking about that here just a second ago, and every kid, every boy loves to move things around. You guys have a bunch of big trucks. Operational headquarters here in Omaha, right?
Yes, that's correct.
Well. And then, of course, Union Pacific is as well, so you have to have a pretty good partnership with them.
Yeah, we do a lot with the Union Pacific and their subsidiaries. So they have a subsidiary called Streamline, and we do a lot with them as well.
Yeah, no, it's pretty awesome to think about just the massive amount of stuff we move across our country every day, a lot of it on Warner trucks. A lot of those Warner trucks I've seen as I've traveled the country. What's awesome is we look for them now when we're traveling the country.
Yes.
And we're
my kids love seeing them when they're on the road. They're saying, "Hey, that's where you were."
Exactly. You know, blue Warner sign on there, and you can always tell when who they are and where they're from. And whenever we go east or west, we see them on I-80. And of course, no one lives in Omaha, but everybody's been through it when you ask them that question. And a lot of trucks make their way north, south, east, and west out of Omaha. So Warner's a great story here in Omaha. We just, the fact that headquartered here.
Business.
Yeah. No, it's a great story here in Omaha. Talk a little bit tell me about what you're talking about here in your session.
So I'm talking about necessitating leadership, and I have a passion around growing leaders, especially in those in the IT field, helping them understand where they can improve and grow others. Yeah. And I have a general belief that everybody can be a leader. So I'm talking about teaching people that they are a leader, what is involved with that, and then showing them how that they can necessitate leadership today. So, necessitate is to make necessary or unavoidable. So leadership is not avoidable anymore. Right. It's something that we face in our everyday day, and people need to understand that it's what we do, it's how we act, and it affects everyone, even in ways we don't even imagine. Yeah. A lot of the discussions here are on, marketing and technology and software development and mobile, and you pick leadership. Yeah. What brought you to this point? I mean, what brought you to the point where you submitted an abstract to speak on leadership here at a tech conference? So I've always felt that in the IT sector, especially, we don't grow our leaders. We grow people technically, so we have to send them to training conferences for that. Yeah. We'll grow them from projects and items like that, but we don't grow their leadership skills. Yeah. And I do a lot with trying to increase that in the community. So I do work with the AIM Institute. Oh, great. And they have an IT Leadership Academy. So I went through that during its second year, and I sit on its steering committee now. So helping managers who are managers in IT all across Omaha, help them get to that next level. Right. And then I'm on the Omaha Agile User Group board. So I help promote Agile development and Agile growth. And all the concepts about it is what we believe in: servant leadership. Right. I've always had great leaders as mentors over my career. I worked at ConAgra, and even though I wasn't a direct report to Gary Rodkin or anything like that, his influence had a lot to do with how I grew in my career. Sure. So when we think about leadership and we think about IT, those together, you kind of mentioned, you alluded to, we teach them technology, but not necessarily the essentials of leadership. Where else are we missing in that area? As you talk about let's talk about the problem first. Yeah. So besides that, where else are we missing in that area? It's business knowledge. Okay. So a lot of people come into IT or apply for jobs, and they'll be very strong technically, but they won't have the business expertise of what are we doing, how are we doing it, why are we doing it. Right. My CIO he constantly pushes to us that we need to know the business as well or better than the business does themselves. Because that's the only way we're going to deliver innovative solutions to them. We don't have that ability otherwise.
Any other, when you think about the common core problems across that you guys see, anything else in there? With technology, business savvy, what else? Anything else in there?
Yeah, it's mainly just mentorship as well. You know, we don't see a lot of mentors coming out of the IT field that will help others. I think you see like small pockets, but I think we could do so much more. You know, people don't realize just, you know, speaking at Infotec, I'm going to touch a few people and maybe change one or two things that they do. And that'll be impactful. But just in your day-to-day world, if you're acting as a leader in everything you're doing, you're going to impact someone in a way, you know, so you need to be able to do that.
No, good. And you talked about mentoring. I assume in AIM's model of doing this, there's some mentoring going on in that. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so we do some mentoring in terms of we try to bring in speakers and community leaders from different organizations to come and talk to the class and give them like a 20-minute session where they can just ask questions of executives in the IT field. How do you do your work? You know, how do you do work-life balance? Is there such a thing anymore? You know, with our digital age, it's hard to get away from work.
It is.
And they each tell you what they do. One of the we had 3 executives come and talk to us, CIO of Blue Cross, HDR, and a high-level exec from UP. And one of the things I noticed in common in their bios was all of them, in addition to their work, gave back to the community. They were all part of organizations that were helping children, you know, and being on their boards and helping their direction. So despite how much time, they always gave back.
Yeah, you know, we have a book, Gallup has a book called Well-Being, and we talk about the 5 elements of well-being. One of them is community well-being, and that's an aspect. I'm glad you guys are focusing on that, because we've seen if that's missing, it can harm a person and their overall well-being, right? Giving back to the community.
Yeah, Omaha's a great community, especially for technical. There's so many people and organizations. I mean, just walking around Infotec today, I'm running into so many people that I've met throughout my career. And it's just knowing those people and helping those people and getting them involved. A lot of these people want to help. It's just they don't know where to help, or they might not have all the time to spend. So it's finding that 1 or 2 things that they could do to make an impact.
Yeah, no, good point. With the AIM program, tell me the name of the program again.
It's the AIM's IT Leadership Academy.
And how does somebody become a part of this academy?
The academy, it takes applications in July and August. We then run a class that's 7 months long, but it's only 1 day a month between November and May. So each class is going to be over a different initiative, like strategic planning, innovation, self-management. And we bring in speakers, high-level speakers, that will come and talk to them about those topics. So it's some of those speakers are keynote-level speakers at other organizations. So it's really a great way. And the best part of it is the networking. So it's managers from multitude of different companies. You know, the First Datas, the HDRs, the Werners. It's everywhere. They're all struggling with the same problems, and they get to see it, and they get to interact together, and they make relationships that will help their career. You know, build that community that we were talking about.
Is there a target for this age group, or
no? It's usually I think it's 1 to 2 years of management experience. So just kind of have already been in it, seeing a little bit. But we've had people all the way from that type of experience to vice presidents come to the sessions. So,
good. And how many in a class?
It's been about 30 to 35. And it's in its 7th year.
Do you guys get more applicants than you can handle and have to do some selection on that?
Yeah, we did. We have in the last couple of years gotten more applicants, and we've kind of reviewed it and seen what the class size is. We're not locked on a class size. So depending on what we have planned for the year, we might just extend the class size and bring them in.
Awesome. And if someone wanted to get involved in that, how would they, what's the process to get involved?
They should go to the AIM for Brilliance website.
Okay.
And there's links there for the IT Leadership Academies. There is an academy here in Omaha, and there is also one in Lincoln.
Okay. And what if I wanted to be one of those executives who helps with it from that side? Same.
Yeah, go through that same path.
Okay.
It's probably contact the AIM Institute. Dave Van Kant or Sherry Beglin is the individuals to contact, and they'll contact one of us who are on the steering committee that can help with that.
Great. No, it's good to know. That's one of those things that we have here in town that not everybody probably knows we have.
Yeah, it's a challenge. There's a lot of large organizations in town like Gallup and UP, ConAgra that have their own leadership training within house.
Yeah.
So we have to sell it as a community aspect, bringing mentors, learning from others, as well as, spending outside of your general spend for training.
Yeah. And I was going to say, what's the cost associated with it?
The cost, I believe, is just a little over $3,000
for the 7 months.
For the 7-day program.
Yeah.
So,
okay. Good. No, good to know. What else, and from the leadership perspective, when you're thinking about, we talked about some things, what else are you advising in this session that you're having that we need to do? What are the kinds of things?
Well, one of the things I'm going to focus on is teaching people who they are serving and talk about it's not just your true customers in the standard definition. It's the customers that are your peers, your friends, your family. Everybody is your customer in a sense. So how do you serve all of them? And it's not about meeting all of their needs, or meeting all of their wants. It's finding out what their needs are and meeting those needs. And how our world could be different if we looked at everyone as a customer. And then at the end of the presentation, I'll give about 10 different techniques that people can walk away with, and I'll give some examples of how I've used them or seen them happen. So
can you share a couple of those with us? Those techniques.
Sure.
We don't want to give it all away,
right? Yeah.
But a couple highlights.
So one of them is to be in it for the long run, right? You want to show your customer that you care, and it's not about the short-term gain. I bought upgraded my wife's cell phone, and I went to a Sprint store to do it, and I wanted a specific contract, a specific phone, and the lady told me not to buy it there. She told, even though that Sprint would get that contract from me for the 2 years or whatever, she told me to go over across the street to a Best Buy mobile store and buy it. And that showed me that Sprint was in it for the long run for me. Sure. They believed in me, and even though 2 years to them was still short term, they wanted me for that contract that's before and after and after and after, right? So instead of spending north of $500 on that phone, I ended up spending under $100 for the same deal, all because that person led where they were planted.
Yeah.
So,
no, good point. What else? Maybe one more.
Yeah. So be genuinely interested in what people are saying. I mean, how many times have you walked into your boss's office and seen them typing and talking to you, or being on their phone and talking?
And I might be one of those bosses.
Yes, I have done that in the past myself. And the big thing is, don't be that person. The quality of the conversation changes tremendously when you just turn away from your distraction and give them that 2 minutes of talk. It makes them feel like they're wanted, and that you're listening to them. It feels like they've heard. I really never realized the impact of it until I heard one of my peers talking about how he felt from his manager. And so I've changed the way I manage that way. So now if someone comes in my room and I am not able to talk to them, I distract them and say, look, I can't talk to you now. I'll meet with you later. Or if I just need 2 minutes, I'll say, give me 2 minutes and then I'm with you. And then I'll specifically turn away from the computer screen, because those emails flowing in, they're going to be a distraction.
Shut the lid,
turn
the monitor, whatever it takes. I've done the same thing when scheduled time, maybe a one-on-one scheduled. They'll come in my office, but I need to get that email sent, because I know if I don't, it'll get sent at the end of the day, right? One of those kinds of things. And so I've used that same technique to say, look, I want to give you my full attention. Give me just 1 minute. Just sit tight. Don't go anywhere, because I know once they walk out of the office, I'm never going to get them back. And then say, don't go anywhere. And then, okay, then when we're done, okay, here's my full attention.
It's all about those little things, right? You become a trusted advisor to your customers, that they believe in you, and then they'll trust you, and you can have them for life.
Yeah. Let me ask you, this may be a tougher question. We talk about millennials, and there's a lot of discussion, not only about millennials, but we've also talked a lot of this conference about a more agile, a more adaptive, if you were in the keynote this morning, a more adaptive approach, which changes the role of the manager a little bit. When we thought about management in the past of kind of top-down order giving, directing, those kinds of things, I heard the keynote today talk about less and less of that and more, more of a matrix. Yeah. How does that, when you think about that, how does that jive with the leadership model you have that you're thinking about?
Right, so it's right on. Okay. So I don't believe that leadership comes from titles. Everybody has the ability to be a leader, and it's fully influenced in our Agile world. So the keynote today talked about Zappos and their holacracy, right? We see it here with the Huddle in our local company. They're doing squads and tribes. And those individuals on that team are making the decisions on how their products progress. Yes, there's a vision on how they're going to go. It doesn't mean that you're leaderless, but they can drive their destiny. Mm-hmm. More and more Agile teams are becoming self-managed and accountable. But to do that, to take that step, those people need to understand that they are leaders. Mm-hmm. So that's where I want to help with my talk, to help people understand that. Yeah. Because if you tell someone, okay, you're self-managed, what does that mean?
Exactly.
What are you going to do? How are you going to interact with those people? How are you going to tell that person on your team that they're late and it's causing you a problem? Mm-hmm. You don't want to do that. You're not, that's technically not your job, right? But if you understand that you are a leader and if you work as a group, then those things can become more efficient, and the stuff that the keynote speaker said will become more into fruition.
Yeah. No, it's interesting. We're making a big shift in that, and it's working well in some areas. It's hard. It's tough sometimes to think, especially in the area of control. We've seen a lot of software stuff go off the rails in the past. And so people are like, no, you got to have some, it flies in the face of some Six Sigma stuff. And, it's a little, yeah.
So a lot of companies start with Scrum.
Yeah.
And those Agile teams. But, Daniel Bacani is here talking about Kanban and predictability. Kanban and predictability, it's the same thing. It's still an Agile. It's still moving workflow through. Right. There's a little more controls for it for those organizations that need it. But how that work is actually done can still be managed by those teams. Yeah. So you can still control the flow. You can still control what gets done at what point. But it's still managed by the teams. So you can still get to your most efficient flow.
Yeah, it's a new world. It's new. It's great. It's never been a better time, I think, to be in IT. I think we are growing. I've watched this grow over the last 30 years, and it's really, really cool to see where we've come up at.
Yeah, I can't imagine where we'll be in the future.
It's a little scary to me where we'll be in the future. It's going to either be the Terminator or it'll be replicators. Right. One of the two. I'm not sure which we'll end up with. Let me ask you a future question, maybe not even related to leadership, but a little bit. As you look ahead in the future, next 5 years, 2020, it's coming up. It's just around the corner, my friend. When you think about that, any technologies, again, not necessarily related to leadership or project management or those kinds of things, but any specific technologies you're excited about that you think, man, in the next 5 years, we're going to see some huge breakthroughs in this technology, and I'm super excited about it.
It's not necessarily the technology. One of my friends was sharing the growth of platforms, and I think they talked about that as well this morning, and being able to connect people from one side of the world to the other in what they do. We have it in the trucking industry. We want to connect carriers to freight, right? If someone can build that application that does that smoothly and benefits both sides of the equation, it's endless of possibilities. So all of these different possibilities exist out there. It's just finding out what that next platform is to make the difference.
Yeah, I thought maybe you were going to say drone trucks. Right. That would be,
they are testing those.
Yeah, I know. And we may be better off with them, to be honest with you, with it eliminating the human element out of it. And Google's gotten really good at driving. They have some 10 million miles or something on their cars now. Yeah. and you know,
I've heard of some tests where they're running trucks back to back, probably a couple inches
Yeah.
apart, so that they can get that
Slipstream.
Yep, slipstream, and get the gas mileage and all that stuff.
There's a lot of, you know, I think the trucking business is the best case scenario for this, by the way. Taxis and some of those things are great ideas as well, where we share cars, right? We just order a car. And I think it's one of the guys in Google is trying to get it. He thinks we can get it down to 1 car per 3 people on the planet, right? Where you share a vehicle. It's a service. Vehicle as a service. It's a VAS,
right? Yeah.
Right? Vehicles as a service. But I really do think trucking, moving, really transportation is the perfect example of that.
Yeah, it's amazing how many hundreds of millions of dollars we spend every year on innovation for our trucks and the safety aspects of it. You know, there's a lot of technologies out there that, you know, watch how the truck's moving and alert the drivers, and
I know,
you know, it will slow you down before you even get to the point of an accident.
Yeah.
So it's you know, it's great to see those kind of
well, just imagine if they could move longer, faster, and without brakes,
right,
so to speak, and move that stuff across the country and do it in a way that saves on gas and, you know, becomes orderly, and yet they're autonomous in a lot of ways. So no, I think your field, where we think of it as a traditional, you know, you think of, it's almost like manufacturing. You think of it as a traditional job field. It's anything but traditional.
Right. Yes.
And we were talking beforehand, the math is just as important. I think in trucking, the math is just as important as the math algorithms that go into our Google searches. Because you guys have, it's chaos theory, right? You have all kinds of packages coming from everywhere, cargo, different sizes, shapes. It needs to get places, and that math's important.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah, we constantly have vendors, you know, multiple vendors for our customer that are ready with shipments at different times.
Yeah,
and we have to do that algorithm to make sure that we're only sending 1 truck to save that customer money.
Right.
You know, we don't want to spend 3 trucks full. So we have an optimization team that focuses solely on that.
No, that's awesome. Well, it's great to have you in Omaha and in Warner especially. And your session is tomorrow?
Yep, tomorrow at 11 a.m.
Okay. Well, look forward to it. Thanks for giving us the information on Leadership Academy through AIM as well. We're big AIM fans. Did I get that right? Leadership Academy?
Yep.
Yeah, AIM Leadership Academy. And so Ronnie, thanks for coming up. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Bet.